Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry about that feedback. I'm sure RPS is taking care of it. Please be advised that this open meeting is being broadcast live and recorded by WRPS for playback on Comcast Channel 14 and Verizon Channel 31. It's also available live online at www.wrpsrockland.com/TV and within 24 hours via video on demand at youtube.com/WRPSRockland. Please go to WRPSRockland.com for further information. First on the agenda, community announcements, open space rail trail cleanup announcement, Saturday, October 23rd. Doug?
Thanks, Mike. The Open Space Committee and Reimagine Rockland will be hosting the annual town cleanup on Saturday, October 23rd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. They're going to get ready and meet at Town Hall Plaza at 8:30, and the areas covered will be the rail trail, the town forest, and Hartsuff Park, as well as the area around Town Hall. They'll provide trash bags, but ask that anybody volunteering bring their own gloves and grabbers. And just a reminder, safety-wise, there's mosquitoes and ticks out there, and there could be some poison ivy and thorns. Children should be accompanied by adults, and for any information that I didn't cover, they can reach out to Don Cam from the Open Space Committee, and his email address is lndgame@aol.com. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. Okay, next on the agenda, minutes. Review and approval of minutes of September 21st, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay. Next on the agenda, new business. Fall Festival, one-day liquor license requests, Vitamin C Brewing, Mayflower Brewing Company, and Players Sports Bar and Grill. Doug.
Thanks, Mike. You've approved a few other one-day liquor license requests already. These are for 3 additional applicants, Vitamin C, Mayflower, and Players. You have all their information in your packet. Everything's in order. Jean Blaney and Allison, the market manager, are both here if you have any questions. And all of these groups are going to be at the McKinley Community Center in the parking lot. Jean and Allison have already met with the police department to make sure everything's in compliance with ABCC rules, everything's roped in and conformance to the law. But they're here to answer any questions if you have it.
Okay, anybody from the board have any questions for Gene or Allison? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the one-day liquor licenses.
I'll make the motion to approve for the 3 one-day liquor licenses.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Okay, next on the agenda, public hearing regarding option to purchase Assessors Map 82-16 and Map 79 containing 36.2 acres, more or less, McCarthy Farm, per MGLC 61A S14. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to
Motion to open the
public hearing. I have a motion. Or a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Can I do roll call vote on this? Selectman Ryan?
Yes.
Selectman Hyman?
Yes.
Selectman Needham?
Yes.
Selectman Penny?
Yes.
And myself. Okay. Okay, so Doug, just if you want to just read the quick public hearing notice.
Bear with me here. Bear with me, Mike. I'm just looking through my files. Well, this is embarrassing. Just bear with me, folks. Yep.
All right, Doug, I'll read it. I have it right here.
All right, thank you.
I think I was probably supposed to read it anyway, so. Notice is hereby given in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 61A, Chapter 14 and Chapter 30A, Section 18 to 25, that a public hearing will be held by Rockland Board of Selectmen on Tuesday, October 5th, 2021, at 7 p.m. at the Rockland High School Auditorium, 52 McKinley Way, Rockland, Massachusetts, 02370, to consider whether the town of Rockland will assign its statutory option to purchase the land, which was the subject of written notice to the town of Rockland dated July 27, 2021. To wit, the land on Beach Street on Rockland, Massachusetts, shown on the town of Rockland Assessors Map 18-16 and Map 79, containing 36.2 acres more or less, with the buildings thereon, and further described in the deed recorded in the Plymouth County Registry of Deeds 46427, page 233, now owned by Louise McCarthy, Kathleen Looney, Maureen Hurd, and co-trustees of the Louise M. McCarthy Living Trust of Groton, Massachusetts. The written notice from the property owner and/or council, notice of intent to sell for other use, purchase and sale agreement, certification of bona fide offer to purchase, Assessors Map 82 and 79, and Google Earth Map are on file with the town clerk and the Board of Selectmen. The property owners and all interested parties are invited to attend and be heard on this matter, and are advised to check the town website for additional meeting information and details. That's from me, Chairman of the Rockland Board of Selectmen. So I just want to affirm first that notice has been given by certified mail to the owners and the council. Doug?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. So at this point, Doug, if you want to just give a quick presentation, you and Bob Galvin, about McCarthy Farm purchase.
Thank you, Mike. I'd like to take the time to go over a chronology of how we got from the very beginning of this process.
Can you use the microphone, please? Can't hear you.
Hi, Mary. There we go. Is that better? Great. I just wanted to take a few minutes to give a quick chronology of how we got from the very beginning of this process today, and to not duplicate a lot of the presentations I've done earlier at town meeting and at Board of Selectmen meetings. But I think this will be helpful to frame the issue for anybody that's interested in providing comment tonight. And again, we're talking about the McCarthy Farm with a street address at 0 Beach Street, which is at the southernmost end of town across the street from the recycling center. So this all began in late March of 2021 when the town first received a notice of a right of first refusal sent by the landowners to the town. And again, we received this notice because they had previously received agricultural tax reductions, and any change in use under state law for those kinds of tax benefits requires they give the town the right of first refusal if they want to change the use, and they were looking to change the use because they were looking to sell the land to a developer to put in a housing development. So we first received notice in late March. 2 days later, our land use attorney, Bob Galvin, sitting to my left, sent a letter back to the attorney representing the landowners, identifying some legal defects in that technical notice that they provided to the town. Shortly after that, we met with the Board of Selectmen, and the board directed us to pursue a state grant that was identified by the Open Space Committee for the potential acquisition of the land, as we were assuming that we would receive a corrected notice from the landowner back to us. So between that time in April and tonight, we've conducted numerous meetings with various town staff, Land Use Council, the Open Space Committee, the Board of Selectmen, Conservation Commission, Finance Committee, and others on this potential acquisition. Then moving ahead to May of 2021, the developer who has a signed purchase and sale agreement with the landowner, which again is what triggered this whole right of first refusal to the town, that developer reached out to us and offered the concepts of a deal which would have the town decline its offer to purchase the land. The developer would execute his purchase and sale and construct somewhere in the 30-plus units of all market rate housing. And that would only be on 3 to 4 acres of land that we're discussing tonight, with the rest of the land as part of a house parcel that's not subject to the right of first refusal to us. And then that developer in this conceptual offer would donate the remaining roughly 30 acres of land to the town for free. He also offered to construct an access road, remediate any hazardous materials that could be on site, build a parking lot, restrooms, and walking trails. So we met with the developer and indicated that a land development agreement would be required if we were going to do anything like this. So we met again with the Board of Selectmen, and when I say we, I don't mean the developer, I mean town staff. Met again with the Board of Selectmen, and the board directed us to continue to keep all of our options on the table to see what's ultimately in the best interest of the town. As part of that process and our continuing efforts to apply for the state grant that I mentioned, we hired 2 independent professional appraisers who completed appraisals on the property, and the average of those 2 appraisals came in at over $961,000. So again, from during that time in May and June and early July, we continued working on the grant. On July 14th, the town submitted the grant application to the state, and it's referred to as a land grant, and land is actually an acronym. It stands for the Local Acquisitions for Natural Diversity Grant, and that's from the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs. And we applied for that grant to offset the cost to taxpayers if we were to purchase this land if that decision was ultimately made. On July 27th, at the end of July, the property owner's attorney sent us the corrected notice of the right of first refusal, which again I mentioned earlier, their first legal document was defective. They sent us a corrected one. It was sent from them on July 27th. That started a 120-day clock timeline, which we referred to before, meaning the town had 120 days to act on this offer. On August 24th, the Open Space Committee held a public forum right here at the high school auditorium for the public to learn about this opportunity to acquire the land, and that was very well attended. Now, fast forwarding a little bit more, we're now getting into September, we received an updated proposed offer from the developer to the town with a land development agreement, which I earlier mentioned our land use council said would be required if we were going to entertain something like this. So they proposed a concrete document, and they changed their proposal a little bit. It now includes 48 units of housing under Chapter 40B affordable housing process. So 12 of those units, 25%, 12 of those 48 units would be affordable. So Land Use Council Attorney Galvin reviewed that document and does have concerns with the adequacy of that development agreement that's proposed. And he has material concerns with the document, which he has communicated back to their attorney. Then fast forwarding to September 13th, we held a special town meeting here in the auditorium where a town meeting authorized the appropriation of $930,000 to acquire the property contingent on the state grant of $400,000. And just to clarify what town meeting voted, and that was unanimously approved, while the cost of the land was only $900,000 per the purchase and sale agreement, so there's $900,000 for the land. We added an additional $30,000 for extra costs we could incur for things like recording fees, title certification, survey, legal fees, etc., site work. Some of those costs we could possibly recoup from a state grant, but just to cover ourselves, we added that to the cost. And then with a $400,000 grant, if that's secured from the state, that left a net $530,000 that would be the cost to Rockland taxpayers if we were to acquire the property. That $530,000, as we voted at town meeting, is split equally. $265,000 would come from stabilization and $265,000 from the Community Preservation Act. Again, that passed unanimously on September 13th. So our financing was in place contingent on receipt of the state grant, which we had not received at that time. Now you fast forward a week later to September 21st, we were pleased to announce that the state did approve the town's grant for $400,000, so we now have that in place, all the financing's in place. So now you get to tonight. Oh, excuse me, one more point. On September 27th, as Mr. O'Loughlin mentioned, the board sent proper legal notice to all the owners, notifying them about tonight's public hearing, the purpose of which, the reason why we're all here, is for the board to hear public input, both those that support as well as those that might oppose the acquisition, and to vote to decide whether to exercise the option to purchase it or assign the purchase or not. The next steps, if the board decides to exercise their option and acquire the property tonight, the major next steps would be that we would mail a notice to the landowners by certified mail, notifying them of that with a draft purchase and sale agreement that would ultimately be recorded at the Registry of Deeds. We would also need to conduct some additional due diligence on our part, hire a firm to make sure there are no hazardous materials or other issues on the site that would make us want to back out, and also do a more in-depth title search. And then lastly, we would finalize the sale within 90 days after the date the agreement is returned to the town by certified mail. So that's the timeline of how we got from the very first notification we received to this public hearing tonight. And I certainly have my own thoughts on this, but I know that the Open Space Committee will have a lot of comment about the merits and the benefits of acquiring this property, so I think I'll hold my comments on the benefits of it, and I'll defer to them, and I can fill in the gaps if there are any. That's all I have, Mike.
Attorney Galvin, anything?
No. The only other thing I'd like to add is that in the event that the selectmen vote to exercise the option to purchase, we'll be recording the notice of the exercise at the Registry of Deeds to provide notice to the world.
Thank you. All right. Any members of the board have any questions at this time for either Town Administrator or Attorney Galvin? Okay, seeing none. I'll now invite members of the audience that are in favor to speak in favor of the purchase of the property. Mr. Can?
Donald Can, 64 Union Street, Open Space Chair. We are in favor of this. It fits right into our master plan, that is to have a ribbon of green around. You can see by the map that was passed out how it fits next to other open space. And we want to say that we're fortunate in this ability to purchase this land because of Chapter 61. We have the right of first refusal because of the boards and committees of the town that endorsed this in the unanimous town meeting vote. We are likewise fortunate in, of course, the $400,000. I think if the trees and the animals could vote also, they would vote yes to buy this because it saves them and it brings a great asset to this town. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Can. Anybody else from the audience that's here to speak in favor of the project? Come on up.
Steve O'Donnell, 71 Winding Way. First, want to thank the Open Space Committee and Don Can for all their work. I know Conservation, Doug and Jen, Attorney Galvin and the board. Really appreciate all the work, especially on that grant. I know it was, listening to Doug, it was a great undertaking to get that filled out and filed, so thank you. As a resident of Rockland for most of my life, I know that we do not have the open space that towns around us have. I think this is a great opportunity to increase that, and I hope we as a town continue to look for opportunities like this to offer open space for our children and our children's children as we go forward into the future. I think town meeting, we as a town spoke pretty loudly that we want to purchase this land. We do not want to see it developed regardless of any promises that may have been made. And hearing what Doug just said, that there was an offer, but there was some things wrong with it. We haven't received an additional draft. No. I think it, as the Board of Selectmen, I recommend that you heed the unanimous vote at town meeting. Doing anything else would be a disservice as your job as a representative of the people of this town. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. Anyone else from the audience? Come on up.
Hello, I'm Linda May Ellis from 65 Union Street and I am speaking in favor of the purchase. It seems like a gift from Providence that we have this opportunity to keep this land open space. No one's making any more open space, and it's that right there adds value to this situation. I drive around town and I see the trees being cut down and I see yards being paved for parking, and it breaks my heart to see that kind of thing. It's short-sighted behavior. So we can do the right thing, keep this land open space, and it's absolutely the right thing to do. I think it's what we would refer to as a no-brainer. So please, 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 I pray, keep this land open space. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ellis. Anybody else? Miss?
Charlene Judge, 624 Forest Street. I'm a member of the Conservation Commission. And of course, our commission is very much in favor of keeping as much green space as we can. And this will add a lovely strip down that side of the town. I happen to live off of Hingham Street, and part of my property backs up to some of the commercial areas in the Reservoir Park area, which when I moved here in December of 1978 was all treed, and now it's not. So any opportunity that we have to keep some green, whether it's in our pockets or out there for my turkeys, my skunks, even though they are little stinkers, my turkeys, the deer, the groundhogs, the chipmunks. I think it's a good idea that since we have an excellent opportunity now, that we stay with it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Come on up. Ms. Valley?
Sherry Valley at 411 Pond Street. I just think in this a time of great climate change crisis, I want to commend the board for taking this opportunity to preserve some green space.
Thank you, Ms. Valley. Anyone else to speak in favor of the project? Okay, seeing none. Any questions from the board on any of the comments that were made by the residents?
Briefly just say that we're glad to keep it open space. There's business part of town, and then there's the residence part of town, and we got them pretty well separated except for a few spots along the way. And it's always been our desire to balance the two of these, and this allows us to keep that end of the town rural, if that's the word to use. So I am for it, completely for it also, so on we go, folks.
Any questions, Larry?
No questions.
No questions,
Nope.
okay. So now I will entertain any residents from the audience that are opposed to the purchase of this land. Come on up.
Hi, Bill Stewart, 29 Birch Bottom Circle. I agree with a lot of what's been said today. I agree we need more green space. I agree we'd like to keep green in our pockets. I agree that if the trees could vote and the animals could vote, they would vote for this. But I'm also hearing a proposal that a developer will use a little part of the land and deed the rest of it back to the town as open space. So we will lose a few of these acres. What do we say, 4 acres out of how many is the total plot?
36.
So 36, we'll lose about 4. So we'll get 32 acres of green space. In exchange, we as a town, taxpayers, will not have to pay $500,000 net cost for 4 acres of land. And I think it makes sense to work with the developer, find a reasonable alternative there. The developer is promising to mitigate for hazardous material. We don't know what's over there. We don't know what may have been buried there during World War II or some other time. They are taking all the risk. The town is not going to be on the hook for that mitigation, and going to put $500,000 back into the pockets of residents by not spending it. It's great that we got a $400,000 grant. We still have to pay $500,000 for roughly 4 acres. This will also help us marginally with our 40B problem, because we in the town are at the mercy of the state for any 40B development. We cannot control that until we hit the threshold that the state requires. So let's get closer to that threshold where we don't cede our authority on development to the state for 40B projects. Let's keep $500,000 in our treasury in a town that does not have $500,000 to easily spare, and I say this as a member of the Finance Committee, although I'm not speaking on behalf of the committee. Let's save the $500. Let's create 32 acres of open space. Let's give up 4 acres of open space for development, and let's get the benefit of all of that.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Anybody else in the audience to speak in opposition? Mary, is this in opposition or is this in favor?
I want to ask a question that relates to this.
Okay, come forward.
Mary Parsons, 754 Union Street. The question I have is, do we have any written legal document from the Thomas Hastings, the developer that wants to use 2 to 4 acres, he says in this, but at the Conservation Commission meeting in April, he was saying 6 to 7 acres of land he wanted, and the rest of the acreage up there is wetlands. This was a farm. This was not the acreage that was used to dump anything from the military from World War II. That's a lot farther down the hill. But do we have any kind of written legal agreement? Because if we don't, it's too late for the developer. And 200 people voted at town meeting on September 13th by unanimous vote that if we got the grant, we were purchasing this land. So I would like you to approve the right of first refusal and purchase the land. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Mary, to answer your question, Town Administrator Lapp is ready to answer the question for you.
So hopefully some of you grabbed one of the handouts that was out front. This was the same maps, are the same maps that we showed at town meeting. So I think the difference in the acreage that Mary was referring to is that, and it's hard for me to read, but parcel 82-002, that's, if you're looking at the big open space parcel, if you start at the bottom, there's the first parcel that's up there with a house, and then you go one parcel up. So the developer would buy that parcel because that's not available to us under the right of first refusal. It was never part of that program. So he would use that acreage for part of his development, and that's why he'd only need a relatively small number of acres in the open space area to add to it. So that's why I think you were wondering, is it only, a few acres or is it, 6 or 7 acres? That's because he would need a few acres from the open space parcel plus that existing house lot. And there are documents that say it, but these are just draft documents that have been going back and forth between the attorneys, which I indicated earlier. Our attorney has a lot of concerns with a lot of the technical issues in their draft document. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else in the audience that are opposed? Galvin?
Thank you, Mr. O'Loughlin. There was a draft development agreement that was sent to me for review. I provided comments on that draft development agreement, and there has been no return or responsive changes to that draft development agreement. So specifically in answer to your question, Ms. Parsons, there is no legal agreement under which the developer is obligated to do anything with us.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else speak on opposing the project? Ms. Tessio?
Jacqueline Tiso, 455 Webster Street. I have a question because, as many of you know, I'm closely following another 40B, and what I've learned is that the town doesn't have a whole lot of control once a developer has a property with respect to 40B. So if the developer gets the 30-some-odd acres, what's to stop him, especially if there's no legal binding agreement right now, to come back to us and say, well, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and put 147 units of housing, and there's nothing you can do because I'm going 40B.
Thank you, Ms. Stacy. Anybody else to speak in opposition? Mr. Stewart?
Just a couple of points. With respect to the last speaker, I think the answer to that question is there will be a binding agreement with the developer, with the town, that's going to say what the developer is going to do. And absent that, the town's not going to approve it. Second, there have been a couple of comments tonight about the unanimous vote at the special town meeting. I was part of that unanimous vote, even though I was concerned about this proposal. The proposal was not, as I recall at the special town meeting, if we get a $400,000 grant, then we will go ahead. The discussion was, if we don't give us this authority, if we do not get the $400,000 grant, then we will not pursue it. If we do get the $400,000 grant, then this will give us the leverage to have as an alternative to work with the developer. We can buy outright, we can work with the developer, but to my knowledge, and if I'm wrong, then I voted in the wrong way at the town meeting. The town meeting authorized the selectmen to go ahead, and we gave them the leverage to either purchase or to work with the developer to come to an agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Anybody else, questions, comments in opposition to the purchase of the property? Okay, seeing none. Any questions from the board in regards to any of the comments that were made? Specific questions? Doug?
Mike, may I just comment on two of those things, and Attorney Galvin may want to as well. I agree with what Mr. Stewart just said as it relates to what the vote was for at the special town meeting. Just as Mr. Stewart said, it was an authorization. It wasn't anything that required action, and I tried to be as clear as I could about that all along, about keeping all options on the table, so I agree with that. And I think I have my own thoughts, but I think Attorney Galvin can also clarify the whole issue about binding legal agreements or not. I think it might be helpful.
I think it's also pretty important for everybody to understand that if we signed a development agreement with a developer, we would have a binding contractual relationship that we could bring an enforcement action on, but we would be in a potential dispute if the developer proposed something other than what we contemplated would be proposed. So I think Mr. Stewart is correct about that too. There would be, hypothetically speaking, a future development agreement, and if there was a breach of that agreement by proposing something other than what we agreed on, we would have a contractual dispute with the person. So I think that just clarifies that.
Thank you, Attorney Galvin. Okay, any questions from the board on anything that was just mentioned by Attorney Galvin, Town Administrator Webb? Okay. So at this time, I'm going to entertain a motion to close the public portion of the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Selectman Ryan?
Yes.
Selectman Penny?
Yes.
Selectman Needham?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Nyman?
Yes.
And myself. Okay. With the public hearing being closed, I will hear comments from the board as it pertains to the thoughts on the vote tonight.
So I have a comment. Surprise, surprise. So this to me becomes a fairly easy decision. Without the legal binding agreement in place with a potential proposal for a 40B. If we don't move forward with executing the purchase of that land, while we do have an opportunity as a town to negotiate with the developer and potentially, to Mr. Stewart's point, get a little over 30 acres without purchasing it, and also potentially have some improvements on that land, it puts us in a position that potentially we could go to litigation. So if it all doesn't work out, we don't come to an agreement, and quite honestly, with the history of this developer, I think personally our best option at this point, while I do not take lightly spending $500,000 of taxpayer money, I personally believe that in the best interest of the town, knowing that we do not have a whole lot of open space and we may not get another opportunity like this, I would personally prefer to bypass the developer and look to execute this and purchase the land.
Thank you, Selectman Penny. Any other members of the board? Share your thoughts.
So I appreciate Rich's comments. I think the residents spoke loud and clear at town meeting, and they spoke loud and clear again tonight that they're in favor of purchasing this land as open space. I also want to thank everyone who was involved in this process, all the boards, committees, and individuals who made this reality for the town. So with that being said, I'm in favor of purchasing the land at McCarthy Farm.
Thank you, Selectman Nyman. Any other members of the board?
I'll make a motion that we purchase according to the orders that are written out in the paper in front of us. Do we want to read it? Isn't there a
Hold
motion?
on. Yeah. Ms. Needham, do you have any comments?
I would just like to chime in that this is a wonderful opportunity for the town, and I would like to thank Mr. Can and the Open Space Committee for all of your hard work, and the town administrators in obtaining the grant. And I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Selectman Needham. So I've been...
I'll read it.
Yeah, hold on one second, Larry. So I've been on the record since the start that my hope all along was that we could purchase this property and maintain it as open space for the residents of the town to enjoy for years to come. And with that said, I think Mr. Ryan has a motion that he's looking to read.
Yep, and I just want to give a special thanks to the chairman, Mr. O'Loughlin, for his continuous pursuit of this to make sure that everybody got on board and we got the work done. Donald did a great job, your committee also, and Mr. Lapp, without you, would be still in the dock someplace. Anyway, here it is. I move that the Board of Selectmen exercise its statutory option under General Laws, Chapter 61A, Chapters 14, to purchase the land that is subject of written notice given to the Town of Rockland dated July 27, 2021, and to give notice of said exercise to the landowner along with the draft purchase and the sales agreement, and to record such notice of the exercise at the Plymouth County Register of Deeds forthwith.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, we're going to do this roll call vote. Selectman Ryan?
Yes.
Selectman Penny?
Yes.
Selectman Needham?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Nyman?
Yes.
And myself, that's a yes.
You've bought the farm.
Thank you, Larry. And thank everybody for showing up and for your comments. Always appreciative hearing from you guys. A lot of you have reached out to me over the last few weeks and months, and it hasn't fallen on deaf ears, and we're very well aware that we are elected to represent you, so by all means, continue to share your thoughts with us. All right? Thank you. All right, next on the agenda, Town Treasurer, review and approve the results of the Town town's new money and refunding bond issue. Doug and John Elwood.
Yeah, I'm just going to turn it over to John because he's done all the work on this.
Welcome, John.
Can you all hear me?
I think your mic's on.
Hello? Okay, can you hear me now?
I got you.
All right, I just want to give you an update. Over the last couple of weeks, we've been getting ready for a bond sale. I'll start off by mentioning that part of that process was to have a ratings call with Standard & Poor's, where they confirmed our rating as being AA. So that was excellent news, especially given all the we've gone through during the last couple of years, or what seems like the last couple of years with the pandemic. We're in very good financial shape. And they confirmed that by keeping our rating at AA. Then on September 29th, we went out to bid on a $26.4 million bond offering, which was a combination of new money for the elementary school. So just over $9.7 million of that was for the elementary school, and the remaining roughly $16.7 million was to refinance some bonds that we had issued for the high school, middle school project 10 years ago. After 10 years, you do have the option of basically refinancing, and we took advantage of that given the historically low interest rates that exist in the market right now. So the total $26.4 million, we got a true interest cost of 1.77%, which is unbelievably low. When we were looking at the elementary school, we were projecting 3.25%, 3.5%, and we borrowed this portion of it at 1.77. The other part was, I know it was under 2. I want to say it was around 1.8, 1.85. 182. Thank you. Yep. And just to give you an idea of how much money we saved on the refinancing part of it, we are going to save over the life of the bond $3.9 million, which won't hit our tax rate. So that was a very spectacular result, one that was even better than I could have hoped for. Excellent. So that's pretty much what I have. I know you have a pretty lengthy motion there that I don't know if you need to read it or not, but I'll certainly answer any questions you have about the bond offering.
Anybody have any questions or comments for John?
So I don't have a question, but I certainly have a comment. This didn't happen by accident. So many years ago, this town was in a very, very tough financial position. And the people that have been put in place through the Finance Committee, our finance team, including our accountant, our treasurer, collectors, our town administrators, have really worked hard to put the town in a better position. And we don't take this lightly. We've had to invest in our infrastructure between roads, schools, a senior center. There's a bunch of other projects that we've had to do. And knowing that these projects were coming up, there was a concerted effort over the last decade to put ourselves in a better financial position. Funding the stabilization fund, just things that we did. And I'd be remiss without mentioning Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. O'Loughlin, who before he came here was Chairman of the Finance Committee and had a big stake in putting us in a better position. But also Mr. Ellard, Biz, Doug, and the whole team. The last bond that went out at 1.82, when we did the estimates for that school project at 3.25, that came in at about $8 million under what we had originally estimated. Now, that's not a cost savings per se, because we hadn't taken the bond out at that point, but the monies that we had thought we were going to that us as towns, as taxpayers, we're going to have to pay, that was $8 million less. This is now almost $4 million less. This is, I get everyone's taxes are going up, but without the management that's going on, our taxes would be going up a lot more than what they are. So just want to make sure everyone's aware of it, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been involved in putting us in this position that we are a AA, and when we do have to go out and borrow money, we're getting it at rates at 1.77 and 1.82%.
Thank you, Rich. Any other comments from the members of the board? Okay, John, I just want to thank you for your almost 9 years here at Town Hall in the Treasurer's Office. The operations of that office are night and day from what you inherited to where it is now, and the financial position of the town is stronger than it's ever been, and a lot of credit goes to you on that. So with that, we appreciate all your hard work, and we wish you well in your new assignment in Mansfield.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John.
So at this time, I just asked the board to quickly review. We've had these numbers in our packet for a few days now, so you should have all read it at this point. So, Doug, can we just have this put up on the town website tomorrow for the residents to see what it is exactly that we voted on?
Absolutely.
It's very lengthy, so to read it would be very fun for everyone, so I'm sure. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve, as written, the town treasurer's bond rating packet.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second, Kara. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. And Doug, can you just make sure that Gino puts that up tomorrow morning?
No problem.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda. Local Rapid Recovery Plan presentation and adoption, Beta Group, and Assistant Town Administrator Jen Constable. Jen, thank you.
Welcome, Jen.
Good evening, board members. I'd like to just take a moment to refresh the board's memory. The town of Rockland received a grant through the Massachusetts Downtown Initiative Program and the Department of Housing and Community Development to develop a local rapid recovery plan, whereby the town was paired with a consultant. The work included doing an assessment of the economic impacts COVID had on our downtown district, and in response develop a plan to make action items and strategies for economic recovery. The town was paired with Beta Group, and I'd like to introduce Jeff Maxtudis and Charlie Cree, who worked with both town departments, staff, members of Reimagine Rockland to get input and help develop the plan.
Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you, Jennifer. Jeff Maxtudis from the Beta Group. Members of the board, members of the audience, thanks for having us here tonight. So we're really going to focus on our draft recommendations with this presentation, and we have a brief presentation to go through to show you that. Is that right? So again, I'm the plan facilitator for this project from the Beta Group. Charlie Cray is with me, my colleague. And throughout this project, we've been working with Jennifer and coordinating with her members of Reimagine Rockland, other members of the town and staff. And I'd just like to mention Emily Innes was what's called a subject matter expert, provided input and advice to us on some of the recommendations that we developed. Is that right? Let's see, how do you do this? This. Okay. So I'm just going to spend a couple minutes talking about the schedule and goals of the project. Just briefly go through the study area, which is really the Union Street downtown area, and spend most of our time just discussing what our project recommendations are and ask you for comments and next steps. Okay, so just an overview, and some of this information has been provided before. There's 3 phases to this project, which were developed by the Department of Housing and Community Development. Phase 1 was the diagnostic phase, which is really existing conditions. A survey of the businesses was distributed by DHCD, and it was really to collect baseline existing conditions information, provide an overview of both private realm and public realm facilities in the downtown area. Phase 2 is developing recommendations, which we've done. We have draft recommendations tonight. And Phase 3 is summarizing those recommendations in a report that will be submitted to DHCD at the end of this week. So study area is really the downtown area in Union Street with some additional properties such as Sandpaper Factory and the Wright Building, but really the main downtown area and those business properties along the Union Street corridor. So recommended projects. We have 10 main projects that we're recommending. And these are in no order of priority. The numbers aren't prioritized. They're just giving numbers so we could reference them. Develop design guidelines for renovation of storefronts and facades to support capital improvements to town water and sewer infrastructure. 3, implement wayfinding signage. 4, develop a parking management plan. 5, host additional events in the downtown area. 6, develop a pop-up shops program. 7, create outdoor dining opportunities and shared spaces. 8, develop a public arts and culture campaign. 9, to conduct a study to improve transit services. And 10, develop a bicycle and pedestrian master plan. All of these projects are to support and stimulate businesses, primarily in the downtown area, coming out of the COVID-19 crisis. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Charlie Cray to go through some of the recommendations in just a little more detail. Charlie?
Hi all, I'm Charlie Cray with Beta Group. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, board, and thank you, members of the public, for being here. The first project recommendation is to develop design guidelines for the renovation of storefronts and facades. There was a strong desire generated throughout the process, throughout this planning effort, to update some of the storefront facade conditions in downtown Rockland. And really the first step to get a storefront facade revitalization program up and running is to develop design guidelines. There has to be a robust application and approval process. We recommend that there are some funding opportunities identified and also some partnership opportunities that need to be flushed out. Our subject matter expert, SME, was Emily Innes of Innes Associates, and she provided us with some detailed information that will be available to all of you in the report that we are generating. It's a rather robust report. And it is, we have a draft available this week with more information on these projects, in case you're thinking these slides look a little light on detail. That is going to be due to the state on Friday, October 8th. So we'll take your comments on those. Oh yeah, thanks. The second project recommendation is to support capital improvements to town water and sewer infrastructure. Again, this project was born out of our process, out of our planning effort, where we met with town department heads and local downtown revitalization groups. The observations include the expansion of water and sewer would enable additional development in the DRROD, the Downtown Rockland Revitalization Overlay District. It's very similar to the study area map that we generated as part of this project. The recommendations include to build on previous and current studies, explore opportunities regionally to support growth, and invest in critical water and sewer projects. And really, we want to make sure that these investments that are necessary to happen today to ensure that any smart growth or any future capacity needs are addressed throughout those infrastructure investments. So this is a rather robust project that we believe is eligible for future funding that may come as part of this program down the line. Number 3 is to implement a wayfinding signage program. It's pretty well documented that wayfinding signage will help direct visitors to downtown and to other local attractions. So the recommendations there include to finalize the ongoing wayfinding study, and we'd like to make recommendations both along and adjacent to Union Street, calling out some familiar destinations to those who are from outside of town. Continue momentum from the MDI, the Mass Downtown Initiative study, and to utilize American Rescue Plan Act ARPA funding for sign fabrication and installation. ARPA money is coming as a result of COVID-19 restrictions and shutdowns to help boost economic goals in downtown areas. Number 4 is to develop a parking management plan. Observations include improving parking and curbside operations and increasing availability will improve access, improve turnover, which is really critical, and safety for customers and for different events downtown. Parking management plans are very well proven to increase sales and revenues by increasing turnover and making more parking available as the bottom line. Recommendations include identify funding to conduct a plan, evaluate the possibility to convert head-in parking to parallel or shared opportunities, solicit input from businesses, residents, stakeholders, members of the public, and then, of course, to implement the plan. The graphic here is from the Downtown Revitalization Report, I believe that was published in 2019, and it has a very well-conducted count of available parking downtown. This project has a lot more detail in the draft report, and I definitely encourage you to view that when that becomes available and to comment on it that way. Number 5, the project recommendation is to host additional events in downtown Rockland. Business surveys and public input identified additional events as a successful way to generate foot traffic in downtown Rockland, and of course, additional foot traffic can increase sales at local businesses. And that really is the driving factor of the LRRP program goals and project goals. Recommendations include to continue holding existing events, Rockland Day, Holiday Stroll, Farmers Market, pictured here is the Bulldog Pride event, and to identify new events in local areas for additional events, to partner with local organizations. That one's very important. I want to mention Reimagine Rockland is a very important local organization to partner with. And of course, with all these projects, to identify different funding opportunities. I imagine that ARPA money could be used for this, but there are other sources as well that will be outlined in the report. Number 6 is the recommendation for a pop-up shops program. This was really born out of the field analysis that was conducted as part of this program. We observed a lot of vacancies in downtown Rockland, and we thought that those vacancies could be revitalized, could be enlivened with a pop-up shops program. Pop-up shops attract businesses that provide goods that are not currently available, as well as new clientele to downtown. A really great precedent project would be the Corner Spot in Ashland, Massachusetts. I know some family members of mine really enjoy that, and it's just something to reference later on down the line. Recommendations include partner with local stakeholders and chambers of commerce to lead the effort, identify locations, potential vacancies, and different business owners, local groups to work with to really manage and champion the program. Of course, different dates and seasons for pop-ups. In the right weather, they could be located outside. And if they're successful, to consider permanency of pop-ups to fill existing vacancies. Number 7 is to create outdoor dining opportunities and shared spaces. Creating and providing additional outdoor dining opportunities creates a sense of place, involves things like placemaking and other goals for downtown areas. This really allows patrons to sit, rest, eat, relax, drink, socialize, really get together and be downtown, make it a destination. Recommendations include to identify lead departments and staffers, to inventory potential areas for outdoor dining and seating. We know some locations of Union Street have a really great right-of-way for that. And of course, off Union Street, like Church Street, is a very great wide right-of-way for possible implementations like the photo on the lower right over in Belmont. Identify parking and travel lanes that could be temporarily repurposed. Identify potential for weekend street closures. Create a node at the Union Street area where it intersects with the rail trail. There's a great opportunity to get folks off the trail and into downtown there. Just need that pull. This can be coordinated with additional streetscape improvements. I believe Rockland is a complete streets community that has improvements coming down the pipeline. And of course, like all the other projects, to identify funding opportunities. I appreciate your time. I'm going to let Jeff do the last few projects.
Yeah, thanks, Charlie. Just a few more. Number 8, Public Art and Culture Campaign. This is a great opportunity to increase vibrancy using art and culture in the community. Several other communities have been successful in doing this. Rockland does have a strong arts and culture community. Many artists and artisans reside in the community. And the recommendation is really to develop criteria and guidelines for how this would be implemented in the community: murals, sculpture, art projects. Identify potential locations for those projects. Coordinate with the community and local artists, and obtain funding which can be available for these types of projects. There we go. 9, conduct a study to improve transit services and connectivity. The downtown, in particular, is not well served by existing transit service. It could be a way to help move people without automobiles, especially if additional people, the residential population increases in the future. I would like to identify funding sources, including Brockton Area Transit Authority, identify ways, evaluation elements would include bus service and connections, including those to commuter rail, potential for a local shuttle or pilot program, and improvements to bus stops and shelters and amenities. And number 10, and this kind of relates to a lot of things that Charlie was talking about, streetscape and complete streets, but conduct a bicycle and pedestrian master plan that would evaluate the conditions of all the assets that the town has, look to improve mobility, connectivity, and safety for all those modes, and really looking for ways to move people around without an automobile, and people of all ages and abilities, which is important, as generally most communities are, the baby boomers are aging. Make sure that proper facilities are provided for them. Continue to support the town's Complete Streets program that has been successful. Identify cost of these and funding opportunities. And one of the easy early action items would be to install bicycle racks in various locations in downtown. So that's a quick overview of our 10 recommendations. As Charlie mentioned, we do have a detailed report that goes into those in a lot more detail than we've provided tonight. The next steps of the project are to finalize these recommendations, make any changes to those and the report this week, and submit the report to DHCD by the end of this week. What's not on here, the next step is this report, once it's submitted and approved by DHCD, will allow the town to apply for any available funding for the next stage of this program, which may be as soon as January 2022. We don't have any specific details on that, but this allows the town to enter the next phase of the program where we can get funding for several of these programs. So thank you very much. We'd like to entertain any questions or comments that you have now.
Any questions from the members of the board? Comments?
Actually, I'd like to comment. I want to thank you for this study and for all the work that's gone into it. It seems like you're setting the groundwork for many opportunities to obtain funding for so many wonderful initiatives for the town.
Anybody else? So, I appreciate the hard work that went into this project, this presentation. We've gone through this at different points over the last few years, and then obviously COVID hit. So it's a great refresher and an opportunity, I think, for us to obtain some funding to get these tasks actually completed that we had planned. And we have some of these things that are already in process. I think some people have noticed the bike lanes on North Union Street and throughout parts of town, and the new crosswalks that have been going in and stuff like that. So some of these things have been in process, but I definitely appreciate you guys putting this together. Jen, obviously, your work on it, and presenting this to allow us to obtain funding going forward, and really keep us on track and make sure that we're held accountable to this report.
Yeah, that's the next step to get the town positioned well to receive some of the available funds coming up.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I think they might be looking for a vote to adopt it.
They could, but we don't have the final report
Yeah, it's not final yet, sorry.
So I would suggest when we do receive the final report, I don't expect there'll be many changes, but that the board does vote to adopt. And you're right, Mike, there are some items in here that are already in play. But like you said, it just reiterates the feedback from the community and that particular commercial district that these are the things that they found necessary to continue their recovery efforts.
Absolutely. Thank you. So we'll table a vote until we see a final draft anyway, final copy. Okay. Next on the agenda, Town Clerk 2020 Re-Precincting Plan. Ms. Landy.
How you doing?
Good evening, Liza. Thank you for joining us.
All right. Thank you for hearing me tonight, aside from the fact that I'm required from the Commonwealth to have approval from the board. Shortly after the clerk's office posted the agenda on Thursday, I received a phone call from a resident indicating that he was concerned about re-precincting. Excuse me. So I'd like to take this opportunity to do the best I can to explain the re-precincting. I wasn't involved in the last re-precincting, so if the board could go easy on me, this is my first time coming before you. I'm the last. Next time, Doug, if you could put me in the beginning of the new business, that would be great. So the state is asking me to go for a public meeting in accordance with the open meeting law to adopt the map and approve the required paperwork. So I gave you the map that the state has given to me, and as you will see in the black outlines is the proposed precincts that they would like to, the colored, is your map colored? Doug, is their map colored? Okay. The colored is what it is, and the black lines are what the state would like to propose the precincts to be. As you can see, precinct number 4 does not have any changes. So the concern that the person had indicated was that the changes we were going to have too many Republicans and too many Democrats, but it was outlined by population, not by party. So the map is, they don't want more than 4,000 people in any particular precinct. So, and I made a few phone calls regarding this resident's concerned, and I've been assured that those types of, with respect to parties are for larger legislative purposes, not a small town like Rockland. So I'd like to take the opportunity to explain what re-precincting is to the best of my knowledge, so that not only you can understand, but hopefully the residents, if they have any questions. I have to have this in by October 30th, so I opted to come to this venue to meet with you in case there's any questions, that I would have that opportunity to get the questions answered before my due date of October 30th. So back in the early March, I was contacted by the state notifying us that the 2020 census numbers were in, and that re-precincting is done every 10 years, and that the state will offer assistance to the communities with respect to maps, and we have to outline the legal boundaries of each precinct. So our options are to have the state help us with these maps and the local and the law of the precincts, or we can do it on our own. So I'm here before you today to ask you to allow me to have the state assist us in this process. It was recommended to me that I develop a group of people. I reached out to the assessor, I reached out to planning, I reached out to zoning. And I met with Chairman Rob Rosa from the zoning board, who was more than happy. Apparently doing these maps are part of his job in his work. And I just felt, and I explained to Doug that I felt that it would be in our best interest to not reinvent the wheel and to have the state help us. As you'll see also in your packet is a sample of what the borders of the precincts are. I just felt I didn't want to have to try and figure it out. As I talked to the state on many occasions, they said some of the outlines are no longer valid, like it could be a high tension wire, and then in 10 years it's no longer an option. I just feel that if they're willing to do the work for us, it would be in our best interest. And lastly, it needs a vote of approval from the board. I lie, I don't know if that's last. Sorry, I don't know if it's lastly. We do need a vote of approval from the board, but I am getting some conflicting. The more I read the paperwork, I don't know if I need to say to the state that, yes, we're willing to take their map option, and then you vote at the next the next selectmen meeting. But
I would take the vote tonight if they're willing to.
Okay,
and
okay.
If you need to redo it, you can always redo it.
Okay, perfect. So due to the delays in the census numbers coming out because of COVID, everybody was remote and the census numbers were delayed. I only have 2 weeks to get the information back. Thus, I came to this meeting so that I could get the most time in to get everything, because the numbers will become in effect December of this year and will last till the next census. I think that's it.
Okay, any questions or comments from the members of the board? Okay. So as I'm looking at this, and to your point, it doesn't look like there's an awful lot changing. Now, the black lines you said are the new districts, and the colors are the old districts?
Correct.
So anything that was green is now, in the black line, is now going to be yellow. Anything that was yellow that's on the other side of the black line would be moving over to precinct.
Correct.
Okay, so I mean, this is very, very marginal changes. I would suggest that we take a vote tonight on this. It's very, very minor changes, but make sure that it's put on the town website tomorrow morning or in the next couple of days as well for the residents. Doug?
Thanks, Mike. I just wanted to comment just to make sure everybody understood. We don't vote anything within the town based on precincts. And none of these changes, they are very minimal, as Mike said. It's not going to change who our state rep is, who our state senator is, who our congressman is. I mean, it's really just a function of, which voting precinct you're in. But it doesn't affect, your representatives or anything like that. So I just wanted to make sure that was clear. I think it was obvious to us, but I want
It
to make
helps
sure
manage the election process, so we're not overloaded in one precinct than the other, so we can manage people coming through in the course of the day.
And the other thing that I'd like to point out is I am required to notify those residents whose precincts will be affected. Obviously I'll have to possibly put it on the town website, get word out there that for April election that you will be, those few that will be affected.
Okay. So if nobody has any questions or concerns in regards to the new precincting map, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the new redistricting of the precincts.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you, Liza. That wasn't so bad.
Thanks, Liza.
Okay. Next on the agenda. American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, designate town administrator as Plymouth County ARPA authorized representative, recipient, and designate town accountant as Plymouth County ARPA authorized submitter, preparer, and vote to execute Plymouth County ARPA grant agreement, Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A. Doug.
Thanks, Mike. We've been, not just the town of Rockland, but all the South Shore towns in Plymouth County have been meeting with the county recently to discuss their implementation of the federal ARPA funds that are flowing through the county. And at the last meeting we had, the county treasurer requested each of the towns to take a vote like this just to formalize exactly who is authorized to submit the applications for requesting funding. And this is the town's funding that flows through Plymouth County from the federal government. To just formally vote who's authorized to submit those applications and who the designated representative official is to receive those funds on behalf of the town. And as you read in the agenda, it would be the town accountant to submit the applications and the town administrator to be the representative to receive the funds on behalf of the town. And then lastly, while we don't have the formal document available from the county yet, they're also just requesting that the board formally vote to enter into a grant agreement with the county so that later when you're able to sign it, we can do that quickly. So I hope that provides the background.
So we're looking for 3 votes on this, Doug?
Or you could do it all as one. That's fine. Just as written on the agenda is perfectly fine.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve as written on the agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion. Do I have a second. Motion and a second. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Okay. Other new business not reasonably anticipated. Doug.
In light of the Red Sox game tonight, there's going to be no other new business and no other old business.
Okay. So old business, okay, nothing. Number 6, town administrator's report and correspondence. Doug.
Thanks, Mike. I will keep it quick. A note about procurement, a couple of things we're working on. The Tramp House CPA project, excuse me, that was voted a couple of years ago. That got slowed down a bit because of COVID, but I met with the Historical Commission recently. We have plans and specs, and we've put that out for procurement to get quotes for. It's basically envelope repairs to that building and structural repairs, roof, siding, foundation. So we hope to get that work done by the end of the fall. Next on my list will be the police station roof. That was funded at the last town meeting, the last annual town meeting, so I'd like to try to get that done before winter hits. And then the last procurement item is I'm in the middle, every 3 years, state certified procurement officials have to get recertified by the Inspector General's office, and I'm in the process of doing that recertification now. Next item, I want to thank our outgoing treasurer, John Ellard, for all the work he's done in the past. I know the board's already done that, but I want to thank him as well. And I'm not sure if he's still here or not, but in particular, he stayed on an extra week to help us get through the bonding, and I certainly do appreciate that. We met with our auditors to make sure we had the proper type of transitional audit, just to make sure we have everything lined up properly for the next person. And we have engaged a consultant, a retired former treasurer collector who worked in a number of other towns, and that person's going to be working part-time until the next election to assist our current assistant town treasurer. Her name is Allison Sullivan. Allison, as the assistant, has all the power and authority of the town treasurer, so we don't need to appoint an interim treasurer. We're just hiring a consultant to just assist the assistant in keeping everything moving. So we're just wanted to announce that. And then lastly, as it relates to grants, I just wanted to highlight that our Assistant Town Administrator, Jen Constable, has applied for a roughly $200,000 Brownfields grant through the state's new Community One Stop for Growth application process, and that's to help us with the SD site for some environmental remediation work. So we'll cross our fingers on that grant application. And then lastly, I did receive an unofficial notification about an approval of a pretty significant state grant for the town in conjunction with some other partnering entities. The state has asked that we not release any details tonight because they'd like to issue their press release first, so I won't steal their thunder, but it's just a little teaser that, at our next meeting I'll be able to announce that in detail, and I think the board and the whole town will be very pleased. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Doug. Number 7, Selectmen's comments. Comments and opinions expressed by individual members do not necessarily reflect the views of the Board of Selectmen and are the opinions and comments of only the individual member. Selectman Needham.
I just would like to say it is such an incredible time to live in Rockland. As a member of the Board of Selectmen, as a member of Reimagine Rockland, as a resident and a mom, it's just a great time, and it's exciting to see all of the wonderful new things happening with the acquisition of the McCarthy Farm, with all of the plans that are coming together, with this weekend's wonderful fall festival. You can see so many great things happening, and it's just an honor to be here. Very exciting.
Thank you, Selectman Needham. Selectman Kenny.
So I just want to say thank you to John Ellett, 9 years of service to the town. As mentioned earlier, the town is certainly in a better financial position as he leaves the position of treasurer than when he came. And he was part of many people who've helped put us in a better position. Very exciting to hear on the savings on the bond. Those are actual savings because it's a refinance on an existing bond. That's almost $4 million less out of each of our pockets. So very, very exciting on that. And to kind of dovetail on Selectman Needham's comments, the Fall Festival coming up, the land acquisition at McCarthy Farm. These are all just tremendous things that are continuing to move our town in the right direction. So it is a very, very exciting time. So thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Selectman Ryan.
On a more somber note, I've been a selectman for a long time, and I'm going to announce this is my last term. I'll be all done in April, and I just want to thank the town people ahead of time for allowing me to serve all these years. It's mixed emotions that I say this, but it's time for my wife and I to retire and go on and live whatever rest of our lives we have. And it's time for the town to go on and leave. We've left an awful lot behind us in the years I've been a selectman, and we've gone on to become a great town with a lot of good people and a lot of good things going on here. Come a long way since we came here in 1972, and I'm glad to at least share my part in it, and I wish nothing to the town but nothing but the best of fortune in the future. We got a good thing going here. I hope anybody who comes and replaces me will have the town's benefit, just the town's heart, to have the town in their heart and not have any of their own private agendas. We need people to step forward, young people, old guys like me, we served our time. It's time to go on, and it's time for younger people to step forward and grab hold of their town and take it into the direction that we've been going into the future. I know some of my board members have been trying to talk me out of it, but 18 years is a long time to serve at any board, and a few years on the Finance Committee. The town's in good shape. Thank you very much. I'll be talking about it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Selectman Ryan. Vice Chairman Nami.
Well, I wasn't expecting that tonight, but
Larry loves the stage.
on that note, just want to thank Larry for his many years of service to the town. You'll sorely be missed on the board. You've been a great friend, mentor, and always good for a laugh. So
There you go.
thank you, Larry. I also want to recognize Representative DeCoste, who's in attendance at our meeting tonight. Thank you for being here. And I just want to encourage everyone else to get out to the Fall Festival this weekend. I think it's going to be a great community event. So that's all I have tonight, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Nyman. I think I talked about it a little bit at our last meeting, but let's not lose sight of what took place tonight. This was a big thing for the town of Rockland. It was an example of many departments working together, many boards and committees working together. Donald Can, you and your committee did exemplary work on this grant. For that, the town will be forever grateful. Thank you so much for all the hard work you did on it. Representative DeCoste representing us in the legislature and drafting a letter of support of this grant. We appreciate that. We don't come to you often to ask you for a lot of things, but when we do, you step up and you take care of it for us. So thank you for doing what I asked. It was great. This acquisition of McCarthy Farm it's a great parcel of land that it'll be great for families and residents to enjoy for many years. But I think this moment is more representative of us taking control of our town and how we want our town to be developed and what's important to us. There's been a perception among the development community that Rockland is open for business, which we are, but they're open without any kind of rules. It's the Wild West and they can get away with doing whatever they want. And that's not the case. And this vote tonight, I think, will send some strong messages out there to the development community that if you want to come in, you're going to work with us, or we'll find another way. And with that said, I'll reiterate what everybody else said. Get out and enjoy the Fall Festival. We saw in the presentation tonight that anytime you can bring residents to downtown, it's a good thing. I think I said that to Allison and Jean at one point at a farmer's market. So get out there and support this great event, and let's make this an annual thing. With that, I thank everybody for showing up. I thank everybody for your input. I thank everybody for the decorum in which you represented yourselves tonight and the town. And I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion and I have a second. All those in favor? Roll call. Selectman Ryan?
Yes.
Selectman Penny?
Yes.
Selectman Needham?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Nyman?
Yes.
And myself. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.